The finance minister, in her budget speech, offered to comprehensively review the foreign exchange management non-debt instrument rules. In plain speak, these rules govern foreign investment in all Indian assets except debt. Now, this promise holds much more in what it signals than what it really means. It signals an acknowledgement that government expenditure and domestic savings alone will not be sufficient to support India's growth ambitions. Therefore, despite a deep-seated desire to remain self-reliant in matters ranging from trade to technology, India will need foreign capital to support her growth targets of 10%. This acknowledgement is refreshing, and the self-awareness is important for a capital-scarce country. Now, what does this promise really mean? Even as we wait for the fine print on this, what this promise offers is an opportunity to pursue a grander vision, the vision to transition India towards full capital account convertibility, which is the freedom to convert Indian currency into foreign assets and foreign assets into Indian currency without any restrictions. This is necessary both for attracting foreign investment that is sustainable long-term into India and to allow Indian households and corporates to diversify abroad. In my finance and governance column this week, I argue that putting India back on the trajectory towards full capital account convertibility is the need of the hour. This requires repealing the Foreign Exchange Management Act and replacing it with a modern foreign investment law that is predictable and requires accountability of the state in connection with foreign investment in India. With the liberalization of the Indian economy in 1991, there was broad policy consensus that India must transition to a full capital account convertible country. Two back-to-back Tarapur committees set up by the Reserve Bank of India in the late 90s and early 2000s recommended progressively moving towards full capital account convertibility. There was great continuity in this policy project even within the government, as several reports commissioned by the government made similar recommendations. In fact, the last major report in this area, which is the report of the Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission in 2011, proposed the text of a simple foreign investment law which focused on predictability, transparency, due process, and accountability, while leaving the questions of transitioning and sequencing of capital account convertibility to policymakers. During this time, several restrictions on the capital account were actually liberalized, even as some of them, such as sectoral caps in sectors like banking and insurance, government approval requirements in some sectors, quantitative restrictions on investments in debt, etc., obstinately continued. That said, the directional movement of the policy regime was towards full capital account convertibility. From 2015-16, this promise of full capital account convertibility was abandoned for all practical purposes. This happened both through increasing complexity of the foreign investment policy and regulatory regime and a deep-seated mistrust of foreign capital entering the country. I give three examples of this. First, in 2015, the Foreign Exchange Management Act was amended, and the regulatory power to govern foreign exchange was split in a very complicated way between the Government of India and the Reserve Bank of India. So the government would now regulate all foreign investment in all Indian asset classes except debt, and the Reserve Bank of India would regulate foreign investment in all debt-related asset classes. The reporting and administering requirements, however, were to be vested with the Reserve Bank of India. This complicated and already complex, severely rule-based regime for foreign investment in India, not to mention the unpredictability that this split of jurisdiction brought with it. Second, and perhaps more importantly, there was persistent suspicion of foreign capital entering the country. In 2015, the Foreign Exchange Management Act was amended to bring back criminal provisions into the law for foreign exchange violations. Anybody who violated certain provisions of the Foreign Exchange Management Act could be convicted with imprisonment of up to 5 years. This effectively recriminalized foreign exchange violations, which was actually decriminalized quite deliberately and consciously as part of the 1991 policy reforms package. Thirdly, in the last few years, as everybody knows, several non-profit organizations that were eligible to receive foreign capital and foreign contribution, their licenses were suspended or completely cancelled. This signals that foreign investment was welcome, but only in activities that the government approved of. Combine this with the unpredictability for foreign portfolio investors who are constantly vulnerable to tax changes, incessant reporting requirements on ultimate beneficial ownership, um, eligibility criteria for who can be the ultimate beneficial owner of an Indian asset and who can't. And what you have is a complicated regime that is not suitable for a modern economy like India. Current account transactions have become equally vulnerable to this bias. So, for example, provisions to collect tax, to deduct tax at source for expenditures on international credit cards abroad, um, the license requirements for importing laptops, a ban on keeping money unutilized in foreign offshore accounts are all signs of a deep-seated mistrust with cross-border capital and current account flows. A lot of these requirements were undoubtedly diluted after sufficient noise was made in the media, but their sheer enactment tells us that foreign capital flows are frowned upon and can be scrutinized at any point in time for any reason whatsoever. What works for a modern economy? A modern economy cannot afford to have a love-hate relationship with capital flows. If we want to attract sustained, predictable capital flows into the country and allow Indian households and corporates to diversify abroad, we need to have a simple investment framework that puts India back on the trajectory towards full capital account convertibility. The policy progress of 2015, such as the enactment of the monetary policy institutional framework, the insolvency and bankruptcy code, and a bunch of other measures such as banking reforms, take care of a lot of the macroeconomic oriented concerns that generally accompany full capital account convertibility. It is now time to stop doing incremental reforms and go for broke.